a local sheriff, but Milwaukee County's David A. Clarke Jr. is also a national figure. Clarke's series of radio public service announcements urging citizens to consider arming and protecting themselves generated national attention and some controversy. This, along with his blunt, tough talk about Milwaukee's problems and frequent appearances in conservative media, have won him a dedicated fan base. Clarke's detractors accuse him of grandstanding, cutting crime prevention programs, and fiscal mismanagement. The sheriff faces a Democratic primary challenge on August 12th from Milwaukee Police Lieutenant Chris Mays, who ran against Clarke 4 years ago and got 47% of the primary vote. Chris Mays was on this program 2 weeks ago. Today, we're joined by the sheriff, David Clarke Jr., who is seeking his 4th term in office. Sheriff, it's good to have you on the program.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Mike.
Well, in a nutshell, briefly, what do you think this race is about?
It's real clear, I think, for the voters, and that's what I like about it. The voters are going to get to decide, do they want a law and order, tough-on-crime sheriff that I've been in the time that I've been here, or do they want to return this office back to a political sheriff, one who has aligned himself with the political class, one who has communicated he'll be a go-along to get along, leave from behind, and that's not what a law enforcement executive is supposed to do. They're supposed to represent and defend victims of crime and law-abiding citizens.
Chris Mays, who was on this program 2 weeks ago, and I know you did not see his appearance, but he had some fairly strong things to say about you. He said that people in the county are tired of the David Clarke sideshow, as he put it. He said that you are all talk and no action when it comes to law enforcement. What's your response to that?
Well, besides to laugh, you know, when you have an empty resume like him, you have to stay away from it. He should want to tell people why he's prepared to lead the largest sheriff's office in the state of Wisconsin. But let's look at what's happened over the last 4 years. He ran 4 years ago. He was a lieutenant in the Milwaukee Police Department. 4 years later, he's still a lieutenant, a middle manager working at a police district station. Okay, in the time that I was a lieutenant in that same agency, less than 4 years, I was nominated by the brass of the Milwaukee Police Department to attend the National Academy, the FBI National Academy, which is a leadership development course for potential promotees. And then I was promoted to captain, a command level position in that time. So when I became sheriff, I at least had a foundation and some background. His career, I mean, what it really tells me that he's still a lieutenant in 4 years is that even Ed Flynn doesn't think much of his ability to command, that he would raise him into the upper level of the Milwaukee Police Department.
You mentioned in your first answer today that you're tough on crime, but Chris Mays says, in fact, he says David Clarke has cut the drug unit, he has cut the witness protection program, that you've done things that actually hurt law enforcement. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all false claims, okay? In fact, the drug unit that he's talking about, the best thing that, and this is an executive level decision, and it's an executive level experience that I have that he does not have. All right, we took a look at how we were enforcing our drug laws here in Milwaukee County. We found some overlap between the Milwaukee Police Department and Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, the HIDA, some other federal agencies, and some other suburban agencies. And we decided that in the area of violent crime, in the area of gangs, in the area of drugs, a task force is a better way to go. So we assigned those people to the HIDA task force. We've assigned them to the FBI's Violent Crimes Task Force. We have a member on the U.S. Marshal Service task force because that's the way to prevent the overlap and to make sure things aren't missed. And it also creates better information sharing. As far as the witness protection program, that was a state-funded program that the state ended. I then went to the county board in the next budget and said, I'd like funding to pick up where the state left off. The county board said no. That's why that program went away. But I also put together a group of people, including John Chisholm, and said, let's start this thing back up again. And the thing is now funded and run out of the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. So again, these are just things he throws up against the wall. I want to know more about his resume that he doesn't want to talk about.
Do you think you've been a good fiscal steward of your department? Spending has risen fairly dramatically during your tenure. Do you think you've done that?
Well, I don't think it has. When I came in...
33% of the tax levy from 2007 to 2012.
Okay. When I came in as sheriff, this agency suffered from multi-million-dollar deficits every year. Nobody said a thing. Then I came in, I said, this has got to stop. What I did, Mike, was I eliminated all the waste, fraud, and abuse. We brought overtime down, okay, and we brought these costs more in line with what I thought was an effective way to manage public safety resources inside Milwaukee County. So a lot of the increase that you're talking about, it's the rate of inflation. In other words, from year to year, the deputy's contract means they get a pay raise. All right, that's the rate of inflation. Those types of things have gone up, but those are contracts negotiated by the county, not by me, the sheriff. So I turned around the House of Correction that had a $5.5 million deficit when I took it over, and in 1 year I wiped it out. I proved in 10 years I've either balanced every budget or we've turned back a surplus. I know how to work a large budget. Again, that's experience I have that Chris Mace does not have as a middle manager, and that's what I'll continue to do for the people of Milwaukee.
Let me ask you a final question. There's a lot of speculation, always has been, about your political future, about what you might do next should you be reelected, Sheriff. Briefly, if you're reelected, can you guarantee the people of Milwaukee County that you'll serve out that 4-year term as sheriff?
Well, that's a question that always gets answered, or asked, I should say, in all of these instances when people start to, well, I think you should do this. I've heard I should run for governor. I had somebody tell me a couple of weeks ago, you should run for president. All right, that stuff's all flattering, but I'm a cop at heart. All right, I bleed blue. I've been doing this for 37 years. I just had my 37th anniversary last week. Protecting my community. I'm focused on that. I have a sense of urgency about this campaign. I do not take elections for granted, so I want to focus on that. But I did say this, and I'll say it again. I said after this election, the mayor's race isn't until 2016. Because I'm getting some pressure to do that, it's not something that I said I want to do. I think it's fair for me to sit down with some confidants and some trusted people to look at the viability. That's what I said. The viability of taking on an incumbent mayor. That doesn't mean I will. It doesn't mean I won't. I try to live life one day at a time. I'm focused on today. I'm focused on this election coming up in 2 weeks. And my intent is to be the sheriff throughout those 4 years. But, Mike, you know this as well as anybody. Things change by the moment.
Sheriff David A. Clarke, Jr., good to have you back on the program. Appreciate your time today.
Mike, it's always a pleasure.